You're listening to the Storm Report, your weekly insight into the Manchester Storm, brought to you by Storm TV's Maddie Finnegan.
Hello, hockey fans. Welcome to episode 16 of the Storm Report podcast, your exclusive and official podcast with the Manchester Storm. A warm first welcome to the Belfast Giants fans. Hope you guys are doing well when you're listening to this. And of course, a warm welcome to the returning Storm fans. By the time this one's out, the next puck drop between these two teams shall only be a couple of hours away, so this is really exciting, and hopefully this is something you can listen to get yourself in the mood for this game. And we have a very good podcast, I must say, so I'm looking forward to this one. This one, both myself and Joe Morrow are joined by some real heavy hitters. Both players on this week's podcasts are vital to their team's success, and they both impact the game from different ends of the ice. For the first time on the Storm Report, firstly, I'd like to welcome the Belfast Giant starting netminder, Jackson Whistle. How you doing?
Good, thanks for having me.
And me, Joe, and Jackson are joined by the Storm's star forward, Alexis D'Aoust. Alexis, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, for you guys listening at home, the way this is going to work is I'm going to try my best to interview both of these guys at the same time so that you kind of get a bit more of a feel for what those players are really like when you're watching them take to the ice on Friday. Hopefully get to know them a little bit better before they have their fifth face-off against each other this season. We'll talk about that game and what to expect from it, how important those 2 points are for both teams, and much, much more. But first, Joe Morrow, man, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, I needed a little break, you know. Sometimes it's exhausting hanging out on here talking to all the boys all day, so take a week off, and now I'm back. I'll try to get some barn burning questions here. I'll think of something.
Yeah, we'll see what you come up with. It's good to have you back. Definitely, podcast missed you last week, and loads of the fans definitely wanted to have you back. You guys listening at home absolutely smashed the like target, so back with very high demand. And Joe, that demand only grew when you scored the first goal against Fife. Tell me about that game. Tell me about that goal and how everything came about and that massive victory that we had at the Storm Shelter.
Yeah, I mean, if that's all it takes to get a little more social media engagement, I'll try to score every game, I guess. But that game was fun. It was a fun game. Obviously, the crowd was super into it. I thought we played a pretty solid 60 minutes there. Obviously, some mistakes were made as per usual, which keeps the game tighter than necessary, but you know, Fife's kind of coming into their own now. They got a couple players back. They always play hard. You know, just that game was definitely a lot closer than what the score indicated. I think they put a lot of quality scoring chances together, and luckily for us, we just played a full 60 minutes. So it was good to always have that fan support. You know, they scored kind of in the third period to bring it a little clser, and the fans knew and had a lot of confidence that we would remain on course, and so did the guys. So I mean, like I said before, I think I attest to the importance of fans a lot, but that one was very important to us.
Alexi, you also scored in that game. Give me your assessment of how that team performed on that day and how you managed to get that win over the line.
Yeah, I think like Joe said, like we played a full 60 minutes. I think they also, I think, played a good game. They played really hard, but I think the thing with us is I think we also didn't panic. Or yes, we made like little mistakes here and there, but we also didn't panic. Like we're at the point of the season where it's not enough for us to just play well. We need to like win games, put up points on the standing. So no, I think it was like a overall like well played game on our side.
The win definitely kept the vibes up in the Storm Shelter. That's something that me and Joe have spoken about on this podcast before. And it definitely added to the added buzz in the Storm Shelter after the fact, because we had a Skate with the Storm event, something that we do 1 or 2 times throughout the season. And it was really fun to be a part of myself. But what about you for a player? You've just had that high morale after coming off a big win, and you get to kind of celebrate it with the fans afterwards. What was that like for you? And is something like skating with the fans after a game, is that something that happens over in Canada a lot, or is that quite like new to you?
No, we did it a few times with the previous teams that I was on. Obviously, like those events are much more fun when you win because then you get to enjoy them a little more. So that was good that we got the win before that. But no, I mean it's always fun to just to get to know like our fans, because it's usually always like the same like core of fans that we have that are at these events, and it's just nice like to because like I'm at the point of the year now that I've seen them a few times, so now you kind of see some familiar faces, so it's always nice to just like catch up with them and to like thank them for their support.
It was certainly a fun game and a fun event afterwards as well. And it's something I wanted to kind of get your guys' reaction to before we jump full on into this interview. And that's what we're going to do now. And Alexia, I'm going to start with you. I kind of want to go back to where it all began with you and where you first picked up a hockey stick. What are your like earliest memories of playing hockey? Maybe a player out there that inspired you to pick up the sport, or maybe just a friend?
Well, I first started playing hockey. I have an older brother that's 2 years older than me, and he started playing hockey, and I remember memory I have is me going to the rink, and that memory I remember me going to the rink and wanting to like go on the ice so bad, and my mother always told me that I would be like crying at her because I wanted to play hockey too, like I wanted to do the same thing that my brother did. So that was like a thing growing up, like I was just trying to do what my brother was doing, and then I started like that. And then my dad has always been a big Mario Lemieux fan, so he was like the kind of player that I would always look at his highlights. There was that DVD. What was it called? It's like Mario, like Le Magnifique. It's in French, but it's like a video of like all his highlights and everything. And I would watch that thing like all the time when I was young. And I think that's really like what got me into hockey and like the love that I have for that sports now.
Interesting. Well, what about you, Jackson? Because I wonder from British fans, from Elite League fans, they know you as a starting goalie for Team GB. They know you as someone that spent a long time in the Elite League now. But I reckon quite a few fans out there won't have known that you actually grew up in British Columbia, Canada, and actually first started playing hockey there. So tell me about that. What was that like for you?
It was good. I actually, if you go even further back, obviously, until I was about 10 or 11, I lived over here in the UK. So the first time I ever put on some skates was in Bracknell, actually, with the Bracknell Bees, and my dad was there playing and coaching, and then came over to Belfast as a kid and played. Then obviously got the chance to kind of play more organized hockey, I guess, back then in Kelowna growing up. And yeah, that's kind of how I started, I guess, just following him.
I guess Elite Prospects doesn't go as far back as the
Yeah.
Bracknell Bees, but that's interesting though because that's different. I mean, it not being having the I guess the pressure of Canada. In Canada, everyone is so obsessed with the sport of hockey, whereas in this country, it's so much more seen as of a niche sport. I mean, I was speaking to someone today who'd never really even watched a game of ice hockey before, and that's how niche it can still be in this country. So how did you first come about hockey? To talk to me about that.
I think it was just growing up, getting the chance to obviously watch my dad play over here. Him and my mom, they were over here, I think, for about 16 years. So he was over here playing for a long time. And then obviously I had myself and my brother Brandon. And we kind of got to grow up watching him play. And then when he got a little too old to play, obviously became a coach and the GM over here, and got to go to all the games and things like that. So I think you just kind of followed his footsteps. And that's kind of what got us into it. Hanging around the rink all the time as kids, shooting pucks probably at players and they didn't want it when we were little kids, ripping around, just that kind of stuff.
What do you think the difference was in talent level, or how did you adapt when you went straight from, you said you were probably 10 years old being in a GB program playing hockey to then going over to Canada and playing? What kind of level was that adaptation process? Like were you at the top tier when you started in Canada, or did you have to work your way up to it?
I kind of had to do a little bit of both. I think we ended up moving around a bit in Canada as well with my dad coaching and stuff like that. So A couple places we went to, I was on the top tier, but obviously when I got to like the bantam level and things like that, when it started to get a little more serious, when you're 13, 14, I was on the second team to start my first year, and then had to kind of work my way up to the first year. I think when you kind of look at the development over here, I think when you look at kids growing up, there's a lot of kids that want to play hockey over here, and I think they're pretty good when they're younger. They can all skate really well, good skill sets, and I think it's when they kind of get to about that 13, 14, 15-year-old age, that's kind of where you would see the gap, I guess, for say from kids growing up here over to kids who've been playing rep level hockey in Canada.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I think I have talked about that with somebody else also, saying that the development side of things kind of you almost hit a cliff here. It's really good, really good. They have a lot of opportunity. Obviously it's an expensive sport to play, and more arenas and more publicity and more marketing would be great to get a couple more buildings in. But once you get to that 12, 13, 14-year-old age, it just kind of seems to disperse, and they try to get people into professional hockey almost immediately. Whereas in Canada, it's like you have a million different options to go 1,000 different routes. It's so. I think that's a super. I mean, it's a super good point. Really, really, really good information.
Yeah, I do a lot of the stuff with the junior program over here with the Giants, and I think a lot of it they seem to get the practice time and things like that, but what they kind of lack is a lot of game time, and especially game time against kind of that same level of each other. There's a big gap between obviously the top teams and the bottom teams in minor hockey. You see some of the scores like 30-0 and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, no, I think it's more that like that structured game competition is what they sort of lack once the kids kind of get to that teenager age.
Right.
That's interesting. And it's something that I want to pick up on a little bit later, because I want to ask you about how you think hockey has kind of grown and changed. But I'll hold off on that a little bit, because I still want to kind of stay where we are at the beginning of you playing hockey. Because on the show previously, I've had the privilege of speaking to Alex Oldale and David Tendek, both netminders for the Manchester Storm. And I want to ask you the same question I asked them, as to why on earth you chose to be a goalie. I feel like loads of people want to be the ones scoring the goals, but at some point you decided I wanted to be the person stopping them. When did you make that decision?
When I was quite young, I think it was when I remember coming over to. I mean, not that I regret that decision now, but obviously that's the decision I took. Playing player seems to be a bit more fun, I think, sometimes. But I think when I came to Belfast, they didn't have a goalie, so they just kind of chucked me in net, and I probably couldn't skate, which is probably why they put me in there. And ended up just kind of getting a feel for it and really falling in love with it. And I think one of the biggest things that I like the most about being a goaltender is obviously you can kind of make an influence or a difference in every game, which I kind of like that opportunity or kind of that pressure of being able to do that. So I think that's what kind of got me into it, and then obviously just stuck with it.
What's your opinion? I mean, we can cut this question out if you want, but I want to know this. What's your opinion on the kind of reputation that goalies have for being a little bit on the weirder side? I mean, there's a reputation for goalies that sing to themselves or talk to themselves when they're alone in the crease. Are you a singer, or what can you say about that?
I would say I'm one of the more fairly normal goalies. I'm sure they all probably say that. But if you go to a goalie camp, I can see why people think that sometimes. But obviously, you're 2 of 20 guys on the team, so that's probably why you're on the other side a little bit.
It's probably a factor of spending a fair bit of time by yourself as well, especially playing for a team like Belfast, where the puck is on the other side of the ice for most of the game, and you have a bit of alone time, I suppose. Maybe singing to yourself is something that goalies could do to pass the time, but not a singer in the crease. Then we can confirm that.
No, shower only.
Shower only. That's quite like me. I want to move a little bit ahead on the timeline now to. You played a fair few seasons, Jackson, in the Western Hockey League, which, for those that don't know that are listening to this, is part of the CHL, the Canadian Hockey League, which is like the highest level of junior hockey. And that's where a lot of players that are playing in the Elite League now have all played in at some point. And I wanted to kind of I'll ask you both, but I'll go with you first, Jackson. What can you say to kind of speak towards the idea that hockey is such a small world? And I bet maybe when you were playing in the Western Hockey League, you maybe bumped into a few people without knowing that are either teammates or you're playing against them every week now in the Elite League down the line.
Yeah, I think obviously my connection to kind of coming to the elite league was through our family, but I think when you're kind of referring to hockey being a small world, you can kind of ask any guy, and pretty much every guy either has a friend on another team or a friend of a friend. So you end up kind of meeting everybody. Guys go all over Europe, all over North America, and you meet guys in the summertime at summer skates, teammates that you've played with previously. So it really is a small world, and everybody kind of gets to know one another a little bit.
What's your opinion on that, Alexi? Because you're someone that's still fairly new to the Elite League. Was there anyone that you knew coming into it? Was there any sort of familiar faces when you joined the league? Maybe anyone that told you to join the league?
Yeah, well, I knew some like familiar faces when I first came here. I mean, I played in the QMJHL, in the CHL, and I already had like there's a few players in the Elite League that come from that league. And also prior to coming to Manchester, I had played with Cameron Critchlow and Chase Harrison and Craig Martin in Jacksonville, Florida. So I knew these three guys, and also when I was with the Manitoba Moose in the AHL, Joe was with the Winnipeg Jets at the time, and so it's the same. We're in the same city, basically same arena and everything. So I got to meet. Well, I knew Joe because of that too, because we had an event one night. I think it was a banquet or something at the arena there. I think it was like a casino night or something. And then we were like both like dealer at the blackjack table. Like then that's like how I know Joe from basically.
It is small world. Small world. Hockey world is a small world. I know it's
Yeah.
hard to believe, but the hockey world is like when you say friend of a friend, it's like your reach is so far. It's global.
Yeah.
And I bet Jackson, it doesn't get much smaller than playing with family as well. Tell me about being in the same team when you played for the Steelers, but now nearly every week playing against your brother Brandon when he's in Sheffield.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Our first year, that was the first time we'd ever played together because he grew up kind of the junior A route and then came over to Sheffield. So I was in my third year in the league, and then it was his first year. So we are only 21 or 22, sorry, and 20 at that time, and definitely interesting. Living together with one another, no parents around. But obviously that season, to be honest, it didn't go great in Sheffield. It was probably one of the worst seasons they've had in a while. So then obviously moved on, and then now I'm happy for him getting the opportunity to go back there. It seems like he's doing well playing there. But obviously getting to play against him all the time here in Belfast, and we have quite the rivalry going on. I haven't let him score me yet, so knock on wood. But definitely the family group chat pops off a little bit before we play one another.
Oh, I wonder if maybe the stare down's a little bit longer when you save one that you know the player who shot a little bit too well. It's a friendly rivalry between brothers, and it'd be a cool thing to kind of explore. Has he ever scored on you in any sort of capacity?
Just in practice so far, so nothing yet in the game. I don't want to jinx it. Obviously, he got the better of us last year when we met up with them in the finals and the playoffs. So no, looking forward to kind of playing against him more as we kind of go down the stretch here.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to jinx it here on this podcast, so we'll move on quickly. I'll move on to Alexi actually, because you've played in a fair few different leagues, both in Europe and in North America, and you played in a fair bit of high stakes hockey as well, from playoffs in Slovakia, according to my notes, and then also relegation battles in Germany. That's pretty rare. Relegation isn't really a thing in hockey. What was that like?
It was pretty special because you're basically like you're just trying to win to stop playing so you can stay in the league. Like it's like a different mindset kind of, and like when you're like organization in Europe, like especially where I was, it was like a small city, so like it was like all the people that are like from that city are like kind of involved in a way with the hockey team, and like the team being like relegated means that there's also like less money, people are also losing their jobs, so it was like really like a you could like feel like the tension at that time, that it was like it meant a lot to that, like to the organization to like win that relegation. But it was like it was, I think it was like we played like, it was a really like hard fought like series, like because you basically want to stay in that league, you know. So I think like we ended up winning, but I think like the games were like so tight. It was like basically like the same thing as a playoff game, but it's just to basically like you were just trying to survive like in the league. So yeah.
They're different contexts, but they're all high stakes and high pressure games. And I wanted to ask, because I find it really interesting, I wanted to ask what you feel like you've learned from those experiences and maybe how they've helped you or maybe shaped you into the player that you are now.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've definitely like learned a lot as a player. Also like coming to Europe, you kind of have to adapt the way you're playing a little bit because you're playing on a bigger ice. It's also less physical a little bit. I remember the first time I went to Europe is when I went to Slovakia, and then I was coming from the American Hockey League. Uh, and like I was a player that was like good on the forecheck and everything, but like the first few games there, like I was so tired after every shift because I was always like going like crazy trying to forecheck and everything. But like the ice is so big, and then I had to realize like okay, like sometimes you gotta like not go for like all out for like a forecheck or something. You kind of have to like preserve your energy there because the ice is so big. So no, I definitely learned a lot about that, and then also like from like all the players I've played with, I would say more like in North America, but I've learned a lot from them, from guys in my first year in Utica to all the way to like my when I was in Manitoba and then in Charlotte also. So yeah.
What would you say you've learned from your time over here in the Elite League so far? And maybe how does that compare to what your first impressions were before you joined the Storm?
I was actually really surprised with the level of play because I mean, I've never really heard. I knew one guy that was playing in Manchester a couple years ago, Mathieu Gagnon, which was the fighter, I think, for the Storm basically, and then. Yeah, I knew of him, but like I've heard it was like more of a physical league back in the day, but now like there's a lot of good hockey players that come to this league, and then the level of playing is like really great. So I was actually really surprised about it, and I was no, I was yeah, I was really surprised.
It's cool to know that you already knew someone that played on the Storm before coming out here, and I'm glad that you pronounced his name because you would have got it a lot better. You would have done it a lot better than I would have,
Oh
that's for
yeah.
sure. Jackson, this is Alexis' first season in the Elite League, but this is your ninth season, if I'm correct. So you've kind of been here for a while, and I want to know. It was a question I kind of alluded to earlier, but I'm going to ask it now. How has the culture of hockey or the presence of hockey in this culture either grown or changed since you've been playing here?
I would say it's grown quite a lot. I think from, I guess, yeah, my ninth season here, from the first one to now, the level of play I would say has drastically increased. It's gotten better and better, and along with that, I guess, not sure the word I'm looking for, but I guess the structure of the league as well too has increased. There's a lot more fans who come to games. It seems that the league has really gotten it together a lot more as well too. So I think it's just grown and grown. I'm kind of excited to see where it keeps going up until I'm done playing.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And it's interesting seeing all the different fans kind of get involved with the sport as well. And that's going to be my little segue here as I kind of introduce the first ever fan question that I'm going to have here because it's something that I saw commented under one of the recent podcast episodes. And I thought it was an interesting question to ask someone that has been in the league long enough to kind of have a decent answer to this question. It's a relatively simple one, Jackson, but in the Elite League, when you see the calendar come up and you see a team coming up that you're about to play, who do you look forward to playing against the most? Either an away trip or when they're coming to you. Who do you look forward to playing against as a team?
I think when I was younger, you really look forward to going to some of the bigger arenas, Sheffield, Nottingham, things like that. But I think kind of as I've kind of gotten older, growing up, you realize that it doesn't really matter because all the points are the exact same. So we just kind of prepare for every game the exact same way. So there's not really one team I would say that I prefer to play against more, maybe against my brother. obviously, to try and beat him would be nice. But other than that, kind of just take it the same against everybody.
It's interesting that because the rink sizes and kind of the almost the level of facilities and the quality of facilities vary so much in what is only a 10-team league. So it's interesting that you kind of prepare the same. So one of my questions was going to be how you prepare to face the storm, particularly in the storm shelter. I want to get your opinion on the storm shelter in a second, but it's something that you guys have got the hang of so far this season. You've left with all the points every time you visited us so far. So it's been successful. So whatever you're doing in training to prepare for coming to the storm shelter is evidently working. Without giving too much away, how do you prepare to come and make that trip over?
Well, for us, obviously, we're flying a lot of the time. So I think on this one, we're a day early, obviously, because we're in Nottingham on Wednesday. But usually we fly in the morning. But preparing to play, I guess, in the storm shelter itself, you always know it's going to be an absolute battle in there. Pucks are coming at you from everywhere. The blue line feels like the hash marks in some of the rinks. So, you're always kind of ready. And you just know that every time you go in there, you need to be prepared to battle when you step foot in there. Otherwise, you're going to get stung.
And you guys have been, what's your reaction to how successful you have been so far this season? I guess kind of in general, but also when you've played the Storm. Because, I mean, we've come to you and the games have been a lot tighter than they've been when we've played you at our house. But you've had a good record against us so far. What's your reaction to that? Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I think we have a pretty good team this year. I think the guys have really, gelled together really well. I think for specifically in the storm shelter, I'm not really sure. Obviously, things change quick. I've been in there before. We've been up by 4 or 5 goals. Next thing you know, the game's tied. You know what I mean? So it's always about staying ready, especially when you go to Manchester.
Now, Joe, this is a question that I normally like to ask you when I look to flip things the other way. How can we look to put things right this weekend? I mean, we got to send Jackson and his team packing with a loss, right? How do we do that?
I think I just skate as hard and fast as I can straight into the goalie, bury him. It's the only way we win, I think. He's been hot lately. I don't know. It's good. I mean, I tried my best to score a couple times when we went to Belfast last time. I just couldn't squeak one by. So I think that our main goal, coming into every weekend is just to play consistently. Like Alexis said before, it's not good enough just to play well now. And I thought we played well against Nottingham. We obviously lost, which in turn everything else doesn't matter. But I feel like we're at a stage in our season now where our team isn't giving up at all. Earlier in the season, I felt like, right at the beginning, I feel like we would get into games, would get close, and then, things would not go our way. It would get a little pouty and we'd kind of get blown out. Whereas now it's like we're consistently putting an effort into to fight until the buzzer goes, whether it be down by 1, pull the goalie, extra man, still trying to score. Like everyone's battling and everybody's trying. So I think our biggest key is to keep that mentality, to keep pushing forward and to just continue to try to beat these teams that have really good records and have had a lot of success against us. I think the consistency is there and it should come, but that's really the only way you can right wrongs from previous weekends. So that's how we got to go into it.
Obviously, for the remainder of the season, every point available to the Storm is a crucial one, but especially in this week because you play against the Belfast Giants, and the Giants are on the other end of the table with a title fight. So the 2 points are equally as important to you guys as well, Jackson. How have you guys kind of been approaching this week? I know that by the time this podcast goes out, the game against Nottingham will have already been played, but kind of like a preview for the whole week from your perspective for the Belfast fans listening.
Yeah, and kind of like you just touched on there, obviously the way our league is set up is obviously a lot different than all the other leagues in the rest of ice hockey, where the league title is what really matters most. So every point is crucial, depending on whether you're in first place or whether you're fighting for a playoff spot. Doesn't matter where you are, right? Every point is massive. And I think for our preparation coming up here, obviously, we've kind of had our league hat on, I would say, for the last little bit. Now we kind of switch it to the Challenge Cup, and you look at that trophy. You're 2 games away from lifting a trophy. Obviously, we're heading over to Nottingham tomorrow. I know we're up 3-0, but obviously, with aggregate ice hockey, anything can happen. So that 3-goal lead, to be honest with you, doesn't really mean a whole lot. We have to go in there and play the right way and play like we're going in there to win that game, play the same way, and then hopefully get the job done. And then we did a job in the round robin, getting that home ice advantage. So if we get the job done Wednesday, we'll have that home ice for the final. And then we switched right after that. We switched right over again back to the league, and we need to do a job this weekend against Manchester and Glasgow on Sunday.
And if the Storm are to ruin that at all, and it's going to take a team effort, but most of the time when the points are coming in, Alexi, it's you that has something to do with it whenever we score. I want to kind of get your reaction because this is the first time you've been interviewed so far this season. I want to get your reaction on being in that top point scorers race, being Mr. Dependable when it comes to scoring points for the Manchester Storm. How's that been for you so far this season?
Well, obviously it's been going like really good. Like personally, it's been going well. I think I had like a little moment at the beginning of the year to like kind of um like learn the league a little bit and like kind of get like a little bit used to the what like the style of playing here. But then I think I got a little, I got more comfortable as the game were going on. But no, like you said, like it's been good like stats wise for me. It'd be nice if we could get those like more wins though, because at the end of the day, like if even if like I have like uh points or something, but we still don't win the game, like we're not, it doesn't really leads to anything. So I think I'm just trying to like help the team and to like get to a playoff spot at this point. Yeah.
And you're going to be one of the many characters that needs to play a big role in getting that over the line and kind of helping the Storm get back into that points race. If that's going to be something that we end up having at the end of the season, everyone's hoping for it, and everyone's hoping that you continue to be up there in the point scoring as well, because it's exciting for Storm fans to be tracking and paying attention to every week. It requires a lot of focus, though. And this is something that I thought was a really interesting part of the last episode interview with David Tendek, was talking about staying focused in these big moments. I spoke a little bit with you earlier about how you've played in high stakes games for completely different reasons. And I kind of want to get a gauge of how you personally, how you stay focused and how you're able to kind of calm yourself in big moments. Say you concede a goal right after scoring, it can be a real gut wrencher. How do you get yourself kind of back in the frame of mind?
For me, I'm just trying to just stay in the moment. I'm just trying to like stay calm and composed. Like I'm not somebody that's really loud, like as a person or anything, but I'm just trying to like keep calm and like just focus for like on the next thing that's happening. Like that's always what I'm trying to think in my mind. Whatever happens on the ice, I'm always trying to focus on the next thing. Like what is there to do like next instead of like just like thinking about what it would just happen. Like even if it was like positive or negative or anything, I'm just trying to like focus on the next shift or like yeah, and I think it's been like um working like pretty good for me like doing that.
I would say so. Not dwelling too much on the past and what's happening, only looking forward can serve you well, and it has been serving you well so far this season. Long may that continue. Jackson, last week specifically, when I asked David Tendek, because for goalies it's different, and I wanted to ask him how he stays focused in times where maybe he hasn't got anything to do with the puck for minutes on end. And he told me something that actually surprised me. He said that when the puck's all the way at the other end of the ice, he's not even paying attention to it. He said that he's only really bothered about the puck when it crosses like the halfway line and comes over to him. Is that common, or like how do you stay focused in net?
I'm not sure. It's probably a little bit different for everybody. I kind of like to keep my eye on it when it's down the far end because it's kind of a little bit harder to see, right? So you're watching it all the time. For me, kind of staying, I guess, calm, I'll do a little bit of breathing. So if the puck's down the other end, I can kind of catch my breath a little bit or get some deep breaths in to kind of just calm down. And I think for myself personally and for our team this year, a lot of it has to do with control. So trying to control games, if things aren't going good or we're running it around, covering rebounds, just smothering it and making it a lot easier for the guys.
Talk to me now. We're getting to the business end of the season, but also the business end of this podcast. I want to kind of ask you guys both the exact same question here, but kind of we've had some interesting responses to the question, how do you get into the mindset of a game? Any sort of pre-game routines or rituals that you kind of help you get in the mindset of going out there and competing? I'll start with you, Jackson. I'll ask you that question. But so far, just to let you know, we've had answers as vague as pre-game pasta to having rock music on. So there's no bad answers to this. How do you get yourself in the frame of mind of competing for a game?
Well, to be honest, I used to have a full routine back in junior, a full day of doing stuff. And then I think my first year over here, we turned up to Edinburgh about 30 minutes before the game started. So right away then, I pretty much threw out every routine I had and realized just to do it live. But I will do a little bit of a warm up, I guess, beforehand, tennis ball warm up, things like that, just to try and prepare physically before going out for the actual warm up. And then a little bit of visualization and things like that as well, too, kind of in between periods or just to start the game off.
What about you, Alexi? Any sort of music that you might play beforehand? Anything that fans might not know you do to kind of get in the mood?
Usually I'm pretty like simple. I don't really listen to music. I mostly listen to like podcasts, I would say, or anything. Like just trying to like have my mind like just like busy a little bit, and then I would either like do my little activation before the game or like go outside, like get some fresh air, just like a little walk or something, just to like try to get like in the zone. And I would say during the day, like I don't really have any like kind of routine, I would say, but I always like I think like every game I'd say I eat like a bagel, I'd say. Like I always go and get bagels. Like that's my I think that's been my big thing this year is like going to get bagels on game day. And no, I just love it. Yeah.
So we've had bagels, we've got pasta. I've
Yeah.
been waiting so far since I've been asking that question to have someone that gets involved in the pre-game soccer that everyone does. Everyone kind of plays keepy ups together. I know that's like a tradition in hockey. Do neither of you guys get involved in that? Is that something that you stay out of?
I don't play the soccer before the game. I don't really know why I don't play it, but I'd rather like just like focus on my like doing my little thing on my own, and then just try to get myself ready this way. And yeah, it's just like I just think it's for me it's been working like a little better, I say. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, the podcast answer is a good one on here. It's topical at least, so there's no worries there. What about you, Jackson? You ever getting involved in the football, especially having grown up here as well?
Oh, yeah, I'm the two-touch champ. Yeah, ask my
Really?
teammates. Yeah, no, I'm not that good at it, but yes, I do play all the time. I'm that two-touch player that just kicks it 30 feet in the air and hopes someone else will come grab it. So one touch, I should call it.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Just before I wrap up here and hand over to Joe for the return of the Cup of Joe segment, I want to ask you both what your kind of most fondest moment from your careers so far is. I'll start with you, Alexi. What's the moment in your career that you can look back on and go, yeah, that was cool.
I would say the funnest moment is when I got to play a preseason game for the Vancouver Canucks when I was 21, and we played at the Rogers Arena. And yeah, I mean, there was all these veterans that were there, like Alex Burrows, which was he's a French Canadian, so like I remember like he was there before the game, so I just for me it was a big moment because it was like always like a dream to play like in these moments. So I would say like that's a big moment uh that I remember, and yeah, it's the first one that came to mind. Yeah.
What about you, Jackson? Proudest moment so far in your career?
I think I got when I was playing junior, I got to play in Kelowna for 4 out of the 5 years. So we one of the years we ended up winning the WHL championship at home on home ice when I was starting. So obviously that was probably kind of the best moment for me when I was younger. Obviously, all my friends from school, everybody from around my hometown, and parents were all there. So I think that was probably the highlight. One of my favorite moments, anyways.
There you go. Thank you very much. And we have just one more thing to get to before this podcast episode is done. It's something that has been a real fan favorite. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy it, and I'm sure everyone listening at home will be happy to have it back. Joe, take it away.
All right. I actually have one question before I go, and I think about this all the time, and I don't have an answer for it. So maybe one of you guys can answer it for me. But why do you think that leagues around Europe, like why do you think an international ice surface or like a German ice surface, why do you think they play on bigger ice surfaces? when everybody's goal is ultimately to play in the NHL, why do you think the different leagues across the world play on not NHL size ice?
That's a good one. I don't know. I mean, it's always been like in Europe, hockey has always been a little like not as physical. So like having a bigger ice, you have more time, and there's like less chance of being hit, I would assume.
Right.
But I don't
It
like. I don't know. It's kind of tough question for me. Yeah.
Yeah, like
it might have to do with, I don't know if this is a factor or not. Obviously, in our league, there's no regulation on sizes, but it might have something to do with the World Championships sizing of their rinks. They have different size rinks, even compared to like the Olympic. It's like almost like a 3/4 size rink. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, or if they look at it like that. So they build those rinks to be able to host it. But obviously, if the end goal was to play in the NHL, you'd think they would all just be the NHL size.
yeah. I don't know. I just figured like I might keep asking the question because maybe somebody will come up with an answer that's just like blows me away. Because I think about it all the time. Like even when I played my first year in Russia, every home team got to choose what size ice they wanted. So it was like the Chinese team played on an ice surface that was like the size of Texas, and then and then like our ice surface was NHL size, and then you'd go to like a mix where one was like 8 feet wider and 2 feet shorter. Like it was just wild. And their whole concept of it was home ice advantage. The Russians literally thought like we practice on this, we play on this. When you come here, you're not going to know what to do, but we will.
Yeah.
So that was their concept. But then I don't know. I've just always thought of it, and I never really understood why. So if anybody in the comments or anybody wants to chime in on that, please be my guest because I got no clue what's going on over here. But I'm all for the smaller ice surfaces. My knees aren't handling the international size anymore.
Mhm.
All right. I'm gonna start. We'll go home team first. We'll go with Alexi. So I got like there's like 10 rapid fire questions. So you just first thing that comes to mind, you just answer it. No good answer, no bad answer.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go. Actually, this one's a good one for you because I mean, not the fans would know how many languages you speak, but if you could speak any language fluently, what would it be?
I would say German.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
pretty good German already. So
Yeah.
texting or calling,
Texting.
scuba diving or skydiving,
Scuba diving.
invisibility or super strength.
Invisibility.
Would you rather be rich or healthy?
Healthy.
What's something that creeps you out?
Something that creeps me out. Quick like that, I don't know. I don't know. I have nothing that comes out.
Pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
The best concert you've attended.
Best concert. I haven't been to a lot. I went to Imagine Dragons. I
Okay,
think that's the last one I went to. It was pretty good. Yeah.
that'd be solid.
Yeah.
What's something you wish you learned sooner?
That everything as its time and place. Like, like to like yeah, I would say.
Okay, yeah, I like
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Give me 3 things a person needs to be happy.
I would say health, family, and sleep.
Solid.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite age so far?
Uh, I would say 26.
26. If
Yeah.
you were a cartoon character, who would you be?
Uh, I'd be cartoon. It's like Doctor Strange one. Can it be like a?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I'd be Doctor Strange. Yeah.
All right. And then which teammate's life would make the best reality TV show?
Mm. I would go with Craig Martin,
That's
maybe.
a good pick.
I think that could be a good one. Like he's a single guy, so like I don't know, he's always got something to do.
Yeah, he's always lurking in the shadows for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good. So obviously the away team gets a little advantage, but you ready, Jackson?
Yep, ready.
All right, so I'm gonna start top to bottom. If you were a cartoon character, who would you be?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking about this one for last. If you pick Doctor Strange, I guess I'll go Iron Man.
Nice. What has been your favorite age so far?
The age I am now, living in the moment.
Nice. What do you wish you learned sooner?
Things are never as good as they are when they're going great, and they're never as bad as they are when they're going bad.
Okay, no highs, no lows.
Yeah.
Best concert you've attended?
Snoop Dogg.
Oh, no way. Which teammate's life would make the best reality TV show?
Mike Lee.
Okay, we'll have to follow him around. What
Yeah.
would you rather be, rich or healthy?
Healthy.
Give me something that creeps you out.
Clowns.
Oof. Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength, so I can put up better bench numbers.
There you go. Scuba diving or skydiving?
Scuba.
Texting or calling?
Colin.
Any language you would like to speak fluently?
German, so I can try and get a German passport.
That's nice. Yeah. And then give me 3 things that a person needs to be happy in your eyes.
Health, family, and I'm gonna go sleep as well. Sure.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Double back on the answer. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. All right. That's pretty good. Honestly, those were pretty good answers. You guys fired those off faster than I think. That might be the fastest time, start to finish.
I didn't have it on a stopwatch, but I reckon I'll have to go back and have a look at that for sure. There was some good answers in there, yeah. And it's good to have that segment back as well, because I know fans will be enjoying it. And maybe if you're listening to this and it's only just come out, then puck drop is only moments away. If you're listening to this after the game, then cool, you guys know what happened. We don't yet. But I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Nevertheless, I certainly have. I'll start off with you, Alexi. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Thank you so much for coming on for the first time.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. It was real fun.
And I hope the Belfast contingent have been enjoying this podcast as well. Hope they've liked what they've heard from their starting netminder, Jackson Whistle. Jackson, have you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, no, this has been great. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to seeing you guys on Friday.
No worries. I look forward to seeing you as well. And as always, thank you, Joe, for coming back. Thank you for hope you enjoyed your break, and thank you for coming back and giving us the Cup of Joe segment again.
Yeah, fired up and ready to go. We'll see you guys next week for sure.
Nice one. And all that's left to do there then is to say thank you so much to everyone for listening, wherever you've gotten it. If you've really enjoyed yourself, why not give us a review, a comment, or maybe even a like, depending on where you're watching or listening to this. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and have a great rest of your day.
That was the Storm Report, brought to you by Storm TV. Tune in next week for more exclusive insights. Tickets on sale now at manchesterstorm.com.